In a game that swung from routine to chaotic and back again, the Atlanta Dream escaped Gateway Center Arena with a 93-91 win over the Chicago Sky on Sunday, powered by a Jordin Canada layup at the final buzzer. But the storyline that will linger heading into the All-Star break has little to do with the final score. It centers on Chicago Sky forward Angel Reese, who exited the contest in the fourth quarter after a hard fall and did not return, casting a shadow of uncertainty over her availability for All-Star weekend and the second half of the season. For most of the afternoon, this looked like it would be another comfortable entry in Atlanta's dominant recent history against Chicago. The Dream built a commanding 22-point advantage, riding a balanced offensive attack and stifling defense to put the game seemingly out of reach. Allisha Gray was the engine of that surge, working her way to a game-high scoring output that would eventually reach 29 points on the night. Then the Sky, playing with nothing to lose against a divisional rival they had already dropped 6 straight games to, mounted one of the more dramatic comebacks of the WNBA season. Chicago chipped away possession by possession, closing the margin from 22 points to single digits and eventually erasing the deficit entirely in the closing minutes. It was the kind of collapse that has haunted playoff-hopeful teams around the league this season, and for a stretch, it appeared Atlanta was about to become the latest cautionary tale. Azura Stevens anchored Chicago's rally, finishing with a team-high 20 points and 9 rebounds. Her play in the paint, combined with contributions across Chicago's rotation, turned what should have been a laugher into a nail-biter. The Reese injury, the game's most consequential moment, however, arrived earlier in the fourth quarter and had nothing to do with the scoreboard. Reese, Chicago's 4-time All-Star forward, took a hard fall driving to the basket. According to accounts from reporters at the arena, the reaction from the crowd was immediate and audible, a collective gasp as she went down. Reese limped off the court and headed to the locker room. Shortly after, the Sky announced she had been ruled out for the remainder of the game with a left leg injury. She was later seen back on the bench for the fourth quarter, an ice pack wrapped around her leg, cheering on her teammates as they mounted their furious comeback. With Reese sidelined, backup forward Medina Okot stepped into a larger role and delivered, finishing with 14 points and 4 rebounds in just 11 minutes of action. The injury carries extra weight given Reese's recent trajectory. She had only just returned to full strength after missing the first 24 games of the season while recovering from an earlier knee injury, making her Sunday appearance just her second game back, and only her second real test of durability since the comeback began. As of Sunday night, the severity of the new injury and her outlook heading into the All-Star break had not been determined. The moment also arrived amid an already eventful week for Reese off the court. 2 days earlier, in a heated exchange during Chicago's loss in Toronto, Tempo head coach Sandy Brondello was overheard referring to Reese using language that, while reportedly a common phrase in Australian sports vernacular referring to preferential officiating treatment, was widely interpreted in the United States as demeaning and racially charged when directed at a black player. The comment went viral within hours. Brondello issued an apology, and the league addressed the matter as well. Speaking to reporters on Sunday for the first time since the incident, Reese said she was grateful both for the apology and for the wave of public support she received over the following 2 days, while also expressing appreciation that the league had taken the matter seriously, that her media availability on Sunday ended up sharing the news cycle with a fresh injury scare only, added to what became an emotionally charged few days for one of the WNBA's most closely watched young stars. Back on the court, the final sequence provided a fitting, frantic conclusion to an afternoon that had already delivered plenty of drama. With 9.5 seconds remaining, Gray calmly sank 2 free throws to put Atlanta ahead 91-88, seemingly sealing the win after the Dream had briefly regained control in crunch time. Chicago called timeout to advance the ball into the front court rather than take the length of the floor. What followed was a sequence Sky fans will replay for weeks. Sydney Taylor took the inbounds pass, snaked around a high screen set by Camila Cardoso, and buried a deep, straight-on three-pointer to tie the game at 91-91 with just 4 seconds separating Chicago from forcing overtime, or, as it turned out, from suffering a different kind of heartbreak. Atlanta had no timeouts to burn and needed to answer immediately. Canada took a handoff from Brianna Jones on the right wing, surveyed a fraying Chicago defense in transition, and drove hard to the rim. Her layup found the bottom of the net as time expired. sending Atlanta's bench into celebration and handing the Dream a 93-91 escape that felt, by the final horn, far more earned than the box score's lopsided first-half numbers might suggest. Canada finished with a modest scoring line of 10 points, but her fingerprints were on the winning possession beginning to end. 9 assists, 3 steals, and the decisive bucket itself. By the numbers, Atlanta's win improved the club to 16-10 on the season, extending a strong recent stretch to 3 consecutive victories and 4 wins in its last 5 outings, a marked turnaround from a 5-game slide earlier in the year. It was also the 7th straight time the Dream have beaten the Sky, a stretch that speaks to a rivalry that has tilted heavily in Atlanta's favor in recent seasons, regardless of Chicago's roster construction. Beyond Gray's 29 points and Canada's all-around floor game, Jones provided a strong two-way presence off the bench, grabbing 10 rebounds to go with 6 points in just 15 minutes of action, a reminder of Atlanta's frontcourt depth even without their full rotation clicking in the first 3 quarters. For Chicago, the loss snapped a modest 2-game winning streak and dropped the Sky to 9-17 on the season, keeping them mired near the bottom of the standings as the league heads into its All-Star break. Stevens' 20-point, 9-rebound effort was the clear, offensive highlight in a game that otherwise ended in agonizing fashion for a Chicago roster that had shown genuine signs of fight in erasing a 22-point deficit against one of the conference's better teams. With the All-Star break approaching, both franchises now have a natural pause to regroup, though the circumstances could hardly be more different. Atlanta arrives having won 4 of 5 and having found a reliable closer in Canada, whose late-game composure has become a defining trait of the Dream's late-season surge. There is genuine momentum here, the kind that playoff-caliber teams look to carry through a break rather than let cool off. Chicago, meanwhile, heads into the pause with far more uncertainty. The Sky's playoff hopes remain a long shot given their record, but the more pressing concern is medical rather than positional. Reese's status will be the story that follows this team through All-Star Weekend, where she was already among the players expected to be a marquee draw. Whether she is able to participate in any capacity, and what her practice and game availability looks like when the regular season resumes, will shape not just Chicago's second-half outlook, but a broader conversation about player health and durability that has followed Reese for much of her young career. For now, the headline is a thrilling finish punctuated by a go-ahead layup with the clock reading 000. But the more consequential storyline coming out of Gateway Center Arena on Sunday is the one still developing in a Chicago training room, where the Sky and their fans wait to learn just how significant Angel Reese's latest injury scare will prove to be.